The European Union reacted very strongly to the latest wave of repression when the authorities conducted searches and raids against more than 100 people, the former political prisoners who are remaining in Belarus, and against the families of the current political prisoners of the regime. This is really deplorable. We strongly condemn this practice because it just shows that the continuation of the violation of human rights and continuation of intimidation and repression, especially against those who are critical against the regime, especially against the opponents in the run-up to the so-called elections next month. So we are calling on Belarusian authorities, we are calling on the regime to cease this continued intimidation and repression. We are calling on them to refrain from such actions in the future, and we are calling on them to meet their international obligations, which means respecting the rights and freedoms of people and unconditionally and immediately release all existing political prisoners. Sanctions are one of the instruments we are using to react to both, the illegal aggression against Ukraine, in which Lukashenko regime is complicit and collaborating with Putin, but also when it comes to the internal repression, because we introduced already rounds of sanctions on the Lukashenko regime for stealing the elections and for continued oppression and repression against people in Belarus. The discussions are of course ongoing. The sanctions are constantly reviewed, also in light of the latest developments. But these processes are taking place among the member states in confidentiality. So we are never pre-announcing next rounds of the sanctions, and we are not discussing in public the details of the sanctions. But the European Union is watching, following up, and when necessary, adopting new sanctions. The issue of political prisoners in Belarus is one of high importance on our agenda. This is something we are following very closely, and we do it with the help of a number of sources. Of course, we have people on the ground, so we have our delegation, we have the embassies of the member states. We are watching, of course, the media. We are in touch with people who are affected, with organizations who are fighting for human rights, so human rights defenders, NGOs, both inside and outside of Belarus. So there is a lot of information that we always verify, of course, and this information unfortunately shows that the situation is bad and it's not getting better, that the repression continues, and the proof for it is actually what we have seen over the last few days with these wide-scale searches and raids against people who have been political prisoners before or who are the family members of the current political prisoners.